Hey guys, I was just thinking I'd do a quick video on gluing this knife up. So first thing I'm going to do is I got some alcohol here and I'm just going to use a paper towel and just make sure there's nothing on the tang because I've waxed the blade already and I want to make sure that it's going to have a good grip. What I've done so far, everything's fit up, ready to go, and then I waxed lightly with Johnson's wax all the surfaces I don't want epoxy to stick to. It's kind of insurance. So make sure that goes together. Make sure I know where my pin is. That goes together, I've already checked. Now I'm going to mix my epoxy. I'm using 2-part epoxies. This is just 15-minute. I don't really have a problem with 15-minute if it's inside a handle. And like I said, this is just kind of to take up space. It's not really structural, really. Once the pin's in there and the epoxy's inside, this knife can't really come apart because it's fit well enough. So if this was going to be exposed to light or heat, I would want to use a Phalenic rather than a Mercratic 15-minute. But I'm impatient today, so blade show's coming up. So mix 50-50. And a good way to judge 50-50 is to go at the same time in a cup. And you can look at the dividing line between the two pieces, or two parts, and judge 50-50. I don't think that'll show on camera, but whatever. So now I'm going to mix this. Give it a nice little stir. And a lot of times if it's cold, it's pretty warm right now, I'll put this over a light, just like an incandescent bulb, to heat it so it thins a little bit. Now I'm going to fill my syringe. And I have a little hole drilled in my bench that fits my syringe, so I can do this with 2 hands. Never be afraid to modify your bench. And this is more than enough epoxy to fill that void. There's some it's a 3/8 hole, but I've cut spacers inside so that the tang stays centered, so it's not entirely empty already. How to stabilize wood, by the way. Alright, so now I'm just going to get my air pocket to the top here. Incompressible gas. There we go. Alright, so there's 2 ways. With the 1/8 inch pin, this is a little easier, but you can kind of go into your pinhole, start injecting the epoxy. Not working? Oh, I missed the pinhole. And that way it kind of fills from the bottom up. You don't get air pockets. It's easier with an 1/8 inch hole, for sure. Should be coming right up the top pretty soon. So from the top too. There we go. And I just ruined my shirt. Okay. I usually do this over a trash can, but for you guys, I'm going to do it in front of the camera. Just slide this down, let it come out the top. Don't open the pinholes up because you want all the epoxy to come this way. Make sure that's seating. Now, a little bit on the pin. Drive that pin in all the way. Good. Now we're gonna wipe this down real quick. It's another good idea to just make sure you have all this stuff at hand. You know, rags and such like. Have a pre-glue up checklist. just gonna coat everywhere I don't want epoxy with wax again, because the wax will help break up the liquidish epoxy on the surface, but it won't go inside and break that bond. Okay, and I'll trim my pin afterwards. Okay, now I have this piece of wood here, see, that I've milled out a little center hole, and then I have a clamp that I've modified. This is just a cheap Harbor Freight clamp, but I've cut a slit. So what I do is slip my knife in like this and give it a little squeezy squeeze. Make sure everything's still straight. Sometimes it'll put side pressure. Oop, too much. Like that. And if it's side pressured on the epoxy, it will take a set. There you go. And I just put this in my vise and let the epoxy cure. And there you go. Low stress glue up. Also, always wear gloves. Stuff's not good for you. Once this is set up, I'll go back, spray it down with some WD-40 or something, just to break up the stiff wax, and I'll wipe all the wax off. Sometimes I'll actually take a cloth right now and just wipe most of that excess wax off, so that I'm not having quite so much to clean up afterwards. This is a new stabilized wood for me. It's stabilized sycamore that's been dried green. I'm not entirely sure I like it. There we go. All glued up.